As human beings and animals on Earth, we have to begin to realize that our whole future depends on recycling organic material. The food for the soil comes from organic material, and organic material can only be food for the soil if it's composted. Composting is a fermentation process, it's a process that involves bacteria and fungi. We can all do it, it's easy, it's the vital fuel for the garden. The system we use here is a 2-bin system, so we have 2 strong bins, probably 2 meters wide, 1 meter high at least, and a couple of meters deep. It'll be 12 years before I empty this one. So I imagine in another 2 years or 3 years this will be full, and I'll start this one. But I'll leave the top on this one, I'll make a new top for that one, and I'll put a new front on. You notice this is an important part of the design, that it has a slatted front. Exactly, but also it cannot get waterlogged. This is all the kitchen waste from 3 households for 4 years. But all our very high value waste from the kitchen, which can be any kind of organic waste, not anything plastic labels or tea bags or paper which might have chemicals in, that must go in a closed composter where the flies, the rats and the birds can't get at it, and it will produce a much higher quality material at the end of the day. It's very surprising when you make a closed composter out of brick how much time it takes to fill that composter. So you're talking about 8 years to fill 1 bin, you then leave that to ferment and compost while you fill the bin next to it for another 8 years, so you're not going to be emptying your first bin for 16 years. And it's very simple. It doesn't make a big smell. As I say, you can put your human waste in as well if you want to. Right. I know a lot of people do that. They just have a clean bucket in the house with sawdust in, and they drop their waste in there in the morning, and then every day bring it out, give it a wash, put it in there, and it will also just add to the fertility of the whole thing and break down. And because you're not using it for 12 years, by the time 12 years have gone, you've just got beautiful black soil in there. That's all. And it doesn't smell or anything. But I wouldn't put that directly onto the garden either. I'd put it through a compost tube. Well, if I put it directly on there, it would attract flies, birds and rats. Right. It would be a real mess.
Right, because it's open.
Because it's open. So it goes in a closed composter. And if you want to deal with your human waste, you just simply use the same thing. It's not a problem. Now the large composting bins, which take all your weeds and green material, the tops of vegetables and so on, the vital thing with that is to have sufficient quantity of material. So we have here a wall which is about 10 feet high, 3 meters high. We will load the compost heap right up to the top of the 10-foot, 3-meter high wall regularly, and the weight of that material will press down and it will all be consumed by the animals and the worms and the bacteria and the fungi that are working in the compost heap. It's an extraordinary process.
You don't turn it.
I don't turn it.
Leave it. Just leave it.
Just leave it. But I put masses of stuff in, and I'm hoping you guys will jump on it. Well, you can jump on it now. Who feels like jumping on it? Can you get onto it? In the big bins, which is all the green material and weeds, it takes about 1 year to break down. But of course the outside, the top and the bottom and the sides will not break down because they're exposed to the air. Every Christmas we will cut off the top and the side, put that material into the compost heap for next year, and inside there will be perhaps 2 or 3 tons of beautiful brown peat. Basically it's humus. We load into wheelbarrows, so we might have 20 or 30 wheelbarrow fulls, and we take it and we put it in small heaps across the garden to allow it to dry out. We leave it there for several weeks before we can spread it to cover the whole soil, 4 or 5 centimeters deep, and then we rotivate it into the ground. In the winter time this is full of leaves and they all end up against the wall with the wind, and I collect them all up and they all go in a separate leaf composter. This is just made of wire, it works really great, and in 10 years or whatever we'll have some leaf compost, I suppose.